We're good, man. We're live.
We're live.
Today, I have a really cool guest, man. We're continuing our series here, basically, of collectors from around the world. And we've done the UK. We've done a guy from Malaysia. I got something on the coming up from a guy from France coming up pretty soon. But today, we have good Vince Massara from, where are you from, sir?
I'm from Australia.
What part of Australia?
So I'm from a town called Geelong, which is about an hours west of Melbourne, which would probably be the best way to describe it. So, yeah, about an hour's west of Melbourne.
I got an old friend of mine who's used to be a diehard card collector out of Sydney. When we used to both do a lot of non-sport stuff, we were getting into like Buffy. We did a lot of Lord of the Rings stuff when that was hot.
Yeah, cool.
And I think he used to work for a gentleman out there for, I guess you have a company called Icon
Yep.
Collectibles. Are they even a company anymore?
I've had a bit of a look at their stuff in the past, and they have more of an online store at the moment. I don't know if they produce much as much as they used to, but they definitely are around in some regard, assuming it's the same business, of course. But
because they were kind of venturing in, like they did trading cards, plush toys, they did all kinds of different things. Yeah.
Bit of everything, yeah.
And they had some pretty interesting licenses. I remember they were out at San Diego Comic-Con one year, and both the owner of Icon, his name was John Howard, not to be confused with the former prime minister, but they come out and they were setting up a meeting with Gene Simmons from KISS to talk about possibly creating some KISS trading cards for the Australian market. And I don't think it ever transpired, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it ever happened.
I would love it if it was the Prime Minister, though, and he just had to sort of think of some reason why he couldn't make like the Parliament cabinet meeting that day, and he's like, "Oh,
I got a trading card meeting.
Got to meet Gene Simmons. Something's come up.
Meet Gene Simmons in San Diego, no less.
Yeah,
gotta go. I'll see you guys later.
Sorry, man.
So what I like to do with this segment is I like to talk to different people from all over the world and talk about collecting in their area. Like, what their local market might be like. Do you have any stores? Like, do you have any stores that you like, card shops that you guys can go to out there?
Oh, bits and pieces. It's definitely not as big as what it used to be and what it is in the States. So, for example, the city that I'm in is the second biggest city in my state, and there's one store that you could if you squint a little bit, you would call it a card store. Like they've got a bit of everything, like they've got the pop vinyls and like the whole works, but there's a little cabinet with cards in it as well. And that's the only one in my city. In Melbourne, I found there's one called Cherry, which is quite good. They've got a bit of everything. But there was also a lot of guys that sell on eBay will also have like physical stores. And I popped into one just to pick up some stuff. I was like, mate, I'm going to be in town. I'll save myself $5 shipping and come have a chat. And they were just packing everything up, and there were just cardboard boxes everywhere. And I was like, what's going on here? He's like, oh, we're just selling so much more online that we're getting rid of the storefront. So I guess it's a little bit of both. Some places are closing. Most cities that I've been to and had a look, there's been one or two good ones. I was in Adelaide, another city in Australia, a couple of weeks ago, and popped into the card shop there in the main city, and they were in the main street, and they were just saying how business was absolutely thriving. So the ones that are here are doing well, but they're not as frequent as they would be other places.
So online pretty much is
pretty much
probably like, running down. The old brick and mortars are kind of going away, and
pretty much.
And that's been a trend, now for almost 20 years now, I would imagine. So, I mean, I knew a lot of guys at the old Frank and Son collectible show I used to go out that just stopped setting up there because they were just doing it exclusively online.
Yeah, you got to sell a lot of cards to pay your rent in the city. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I bet they probably could with the high dollar amount some of these cards are going for. But
well, that's it. Now you probably could, yeah.
What about card shows? Do you guys ever have any like card shows?
Yeah, there's a couple that get sort of merged in with Comic-Cons and things like that. There's actually one coming up in Sydney today? Next month. So towards the end of May, there's going to be one. I've got a wedding on that day, so I can't go. But yeah, it's one of those things where they are less frequent. But I guess in a way, I guess with all the COVID stuff and just putting a stop on everything, I think there's actually some more coming from that, because in that time, obviously, the hobby's just picked up great guns.
And guys are probably hoarding more cards now, so I got to have a way to probably get rid of them. But what about pre-COVID? Were there still like regular annual card shows at all? Nothing.
There was bits and pieces around. There'd be some, but definitely not to the state. Definitely not to the level of anything that I'd look at the photos of the ones from the States and be like, oh my god.
Yeah. So they probably. So you're saying they merge them with probably Comic Cons, like what, like like is Armageddon is still a convention out there? Supernova still one?
Yeah, should be.
An OzCon.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, because they do different. They travel different places. I know when they would book talent, you're pretty much committing to 2 weekends because it's strategically placed where they have like maybe one will be in Melbourne, one will be in Sydney. So you're going to stay there. You'll fly in on a Thursday, you relax on Friday, do the show Saturday, Sunday. You stay in Sydney Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They go out to Melbourne, it's like that. Do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Fly back to the States on Monday.
Yes, exactly. One of my friends when I was in the States, she was like someone they would pay for the Comic Cons to do like cosplay and stuff like that. And I'd be like, man, it feels like you're going somewhere like every week. She's like, yeah. I was like, man, like that is a whole different world.
It is. that was my bread and butter business till COVID hit. So I was doing, the booking business and traveling a lot like that. So, but I would always go check out the shows if I could while I was there to see if anybody was selling any cards. At the time, I was really heavily into doing that WW Raw Deal card game. So I was always looking for anybody selling that stuff, and it's hard to find. I mean, you'd find little bits and pieces here and there, like maybe some Harry Potter stuff, you always find Pokemon stuff everywhere. Maybe some Yu-Gi-Oh, or that one guy had like an oddball, booth of all kinds of older collectible stuff. Maybe you have like some I Love Lucy cards or, stuff like that. But you don't find wrestling cards too much in that setting.
Yes.
Now you guys have wrestling promotions out there. Do they have vendors set up there as well? And
not the ones I've been at. So it could be a thing at the others, but the ones I've been at, and I'm a bit like a couple hours drive from where they host their shows, so I don't frequent. But no, I haven't seen them when I've been there. Doesn't mean they don't have them, but it's interesting. I think it's growing more and more though. I feel as well, and I think it's a matter of time before you start seeing things like that here.
Oh yeah, I mean, things are starting to open up more. So I think that, like we were talking about before, I think people are kind of maybe gathering and hoarding more things now, probably buying them online, and now needing a place to probably unload a bunch of their extra stuff now. So unless they want to stick, online, I guess. But
yeah, and I guess if you're in promotions and stuff like that, and you've got your own, the wrestling promotion there, you're probably it's the grind of there's something coming up every week and you can barely sort of take that deep breath in to reassess. And now you've had some time to do that. You're like, okay, well, how can we change what we're doing? When you're sort of going week in, week out, you don't really have that time to sort of pivot. You just sort of, by the time it's Saturday morning, you're getting ready for Friday night again.
Yep. It's true. It's very true. So other than like eBay, are there any other places that you collect from? I mean, obviously you don't have card shops too much. You don't have card shows. So I mean, are you strictly eBay? Do you do things on social media? Do you part of any groups?
There's definitely all that social media groups and things like that. eBay is still king, especially when it comes to wrestling stuff. For me, I found most of my stuff through eBay, just because that's the most convenient way. And I guess like that, you pick up some groups and you meet some people along the way, and then you might do some deals on social media and things like that. But still, when it comes to wrestling stuff, because there's not that much here, because there's the lack of card shows, the lack of shops, the things we went through before, just eBay buying stuff from people online and from overseas is the most convenient way to go about it.
Do you have, I mean, since you're kind of having to do everything online, I mean, you're predominantly just buying stuff that's all the Topps release stuff, I guess. Is it prevalent Topps release stuff in Australia? Or is it easy to come by, or do they sell them in like convenience like stores, like Targets or something like that? Here we have Walmart's and
Yeah, you can buy the
like
when
blister
it comes to,
boxes.
yeah, you can buy some of them. You can buy some of the they have like the soccer version of like so Match Attacks, which is like the Slam Attacks type of thing. And if you get lucky at a toy store, you can buy some of that there as well. But it's definitely not as much like wrestling is, because we also have like cards for Australian sports as well.
Sure.
So that's almost priority number one for most of the places. And those, you can buy those at the supermarket and things like that as well. But once it comes to wrestling, they're a little bit further down the list. So you've really got to...
See, like wrestling is always further down the list.
It is. Yeah.
We were just talking about, I was just talking with someone about Rob England had that amazing PSA 10, 97 Rocky Maivia sticker.
Yes.
It sold for mad money, and it's only been slightly mentioned by a couple of either podcasts or sports. It's kind of glazed over, like, it sold for this, and then they move on to something else. Like it's,
yep.
My thought there is like, well, I guess, cards and wrestling only commanding, tens of thousands of dollars aren't like other sports commanding, hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions in some cases. It just doesn't seem to get the kind of love and respect that other sports do.
But even with that, like, it's still like, where would you put The Rock as like the most famous people in the world? He's probably in the top 10.
I think isn't he number one on Instagram now with like 200 million followers, something like that?
Yeah, like he's just one of the most famous humans on the planet.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like he's part of wrestling. He's also the number one box office star too. You know that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like he's been in a lot of good movies, and yeah.
But so you collect, and I happen to check out your site, and was it Sports Cards Rocks?
Yep.
And so it's very laid out in a blog format.
Yeah.
And I noticed all your blogs, you cover a wide range of things. You cover a lot of sports. You deal with baseball, basketball, football. I mean, you seem to have it all. You have soccer there, and you got a couple. I only saw two. And all you answered, you had two entries
it's actually
for wrestling.
getting there. It's getting there. It's getting there.
You had one on Ric Flair rookies and one on Hulk Hogan rookies.
Yep. Yeah. So I've just got the big ones at the moment, but definitely there's actually about half a dozen more that are sitting, and I'm just putting all the images in before I hit publish on them. So one of
them's got to be The Rock, I would imagine, then, right?
Oh, yes, 100%. Yeah.
You got to throw Stone Cold in there too.
Yeah, well, I wanted to follow along with, I was sort of waiting for the Stone Cold once the living set was all done and dusted, and I got my set that I can take photos of. So now that's sitting back here somewhere. I can.
Oh, you got it.
Yeah. So I got into that, which was a nice one. Good one to start with.
How you liking the living set? Because I'm hearing a lot of mixed reviews.
Yeah, mixed. Like, I think because Stone Cold was such a hot start. And then after that, it was a couple of
Stone Cold and Trish. I mean, you got two big names, icons in the business right there.
Huge. I like the living set. Like, I collect some of the soccer living set. I think it's really interesting. To have it sort of week by week is nice as well. I thought they might have maybe just gone one card at a time rather than two, just to sort of space it out a little bit. But I think
but they have a rich library of so many names over the years they can do. I mean,
and
I think it's the number one complaint is that a lot of like, it's modern. The Usos and this and that. It's like, where's my honky tonk man or my Randy Savage or my, when we getting John Cena, when we getting
Well, that would have been a cool way. If you have the two, you could have had sort of one modern and one vintage just every single time. Like, keep everyone happy.
I'm curious to know what the thought process is in each week's theme and what you're trying to do. I'm not sure what that is, but
it is very interesting with that sort of stuff, because when it's sports, so for example, when it's like the sport like soccer, and they usually have someone who's topical-ish, so they might have just been getting a good run of games, so we'll put them in a card now, and they don't really go with vintage guys. Like, you're not going to see one of Pelé anytime soon or anything like that. So it's I would love to know what their thought process is and like what their plan of attack is.
You pull the one vintage guy in soccer that I would know. That's Yeah, the living set, it was bound to happen. We were talking about that sometime last year, and just kind of knew it was going to be coming up. And
Yeah.
it's like, man, it makes total sense. But you see the numbers are kind of going down on certain people. I think, didn't they just have Edge was one just recently? I
Yes,
think
Edge was
I think
pretty
he
recent.
pulled some decent numbers for
Yep.
orders. But yeah, it'd be nice to see when it's going to be a big one when Taker comes out.
Oh,
That's
huge.
that's going to be
Yeah.
huge. And speaking of Taker, this last weekend, now we went into the NFTs. I don't want to talk a whole lot about because I have a whole different discussion coming up with someone else on the Wrestling Worlds Collide podcast. Um, uh, that NFT came out with Undertaker, and I like it. I think it's pretty
Yeah.
impressive.
It's cool.
What do you did you get into it at all? Did you
By the
buy?
time it was released sort of. That's the thing about Australia as well. When it comes to some of those releases, sometimes it's the most convenient thing in the world because it'll drop at midnight in the States, and for me, it's like 10 in the morning,
Oh,
and I'll be like, but
yep.
most of the time, it's like the exact opposite, and it'll be dropping at 3 a.m.
Ah,
Or something like that. Like I happened to buy a pack of down the NFT path. Like I happened to buy a pack of Top Shot once because I was catching a red eye flight and I happened to be awake at 3:30 because I was at an airport. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it was that type of thing. So I managed to get one then, but otherwise it's like completely out of like it's even if I set my alarm for 3:30, like
yeah. I
8
forget it. I'm just
p.m.
going to bed.
Vince. Exactly. 8 p.m. thinks that's a great idea. Like 3:30 Vince thinks it's a dumb idea and turns it straight back off. Like,
uh, so do you collect all the sports that you write about, or are you a wide collector, or do you have, obviously soccer is probably your specialty from what it sounds like.
yeah, soccer's definitely my specialty. There's bits and pieces of everything I collect as well. Like guys I enjoy. I also just collect things that like rather than if something looks cool, I want it sort of thing. If I look at the card and I'm like, oh, that player's cool. I like him. I like what they do. I don't know a lot about baseball, but I know like enough of the big guys that if I see something cool of theirs, I kind of want it. There's no real method to the madness outside of all that sort of stuff, besides the fact that I think it's cool.
So is it just sports, or do you ever delve in non-sports?
Got bits and pieces in non-sports. Definitely more of a sports. I'm just more of a sports person than a like for me, I would rather watch wrestling or a match of soccer or something like that rather than like binge watch a series of a TV show. Like I'm just more that way inclined anyway. But there's definitely like little bits and pieces. Like I've been buying some old Simpsons cards because I grew up on the Simpsons. They were like in Australia, it was like 6 p.m. every weekday. Simpsons was on Channel 10. And it was like, that was almost how I could tell the time. It's like, I knew it was 6 o'clock because like I could hear the Simpsons starting. Like it was like, it was clockwork.
Are you going after, wait, it's the old Skybox
Yeah, there's a
series?
Skybox and there's also
There's an
it's a
Inkworks did
top.
one too.
Yeah. So there's one from like with the old school drawings from like
Yeah.
I think it could be top. So I can't remember who it is actually off the top of my head. But there's that one's from like an early season, and then there's the Skybox ones as well. And the Skybox ones are real nice. I really
Yeah,
like those.
well, there's that super rare card. That was that Art to Bart card, whatever it was called.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I've only
yes.
seen one in my hand one time at Comic-Con San Diego. Um, but then the Inkworks one, I think they brought in like sketch cards and things like that,
Yes.
and autographs from the actual voice actors. And that was kind of cool.
Yes. Yeah. And there was a couple of sets that I think were just released in Australia as well.
Yes, matter of
Um,
fact, they also did. They did. Where is it? I have. I need to start bringing props with me. They had. Is it in here? Oh yeah, here it is. Right here next to me. They had these cool things that were done in New Zealand, UK, and I think Australia, where they had little characters with the soccer balls.
oh, cool.
And then they came inside the packages, and the packages had trading cards to go with,
Yes.
but they didn't necessarily match the figure you had. So I've got a whole bunch of that friend of mine I was mentioning to you earlier from Sydney. He brought all these over with him, and an effort for me or for us to sell them, and then they ended up just getting kind of lost in the mix. And I have a whole bunch.
Yes, that's excellent.
Yeah, so they did do some exclusive cards over there. I mean, are there any exclusive cards for wrestling in Australia that you're familiar with?
It's a good question. Not that I know of. Not that I know of.
Because you have the old market scene one
Mhm.
from from New Zealand.
Yes.
And that was 3 sets over 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Not that I know of, but it could also be a fact that if it's just something that I've seen in the store, I just assume it's everywhere else because,
Because it's so common for you there. That's why.
well,
That's
it's,
why
yeah, it's pretty much like, well, if it makes its way here, it's got to be bloody everywhere else.
yeah.
Um,
That's a good point, but you should probably start checking those. Some of those might be exclusive
yeah.
to your market
Yeah,
only.
definitely. Definitely.
So then I'm assuming that so you collect wrestling.
Yep.
Um, how big's your collection? Do you have like certain sets you like, certain sets you go after? Are you a player collector, a set collector? What's your cup of tea?
I was growing up, I was one of the, like, it was kids like me that was like the reason they now have the "don't try this at home" like warning at the start. Like,
Do
when
you have all your limbs? I can't really
yeah,
see. So.
yeah, 10 fingers, 10
Yeah, yeah, okay.
toes. Yep. Mum was stoked. But it was like, I loved like the TV, like the rock and wrestling, like the TV show, like Hulk Hogan. I had the whole works. Like, it was like, that was my thing when I was little. Growing up, grew out of wrestling for a little bit, back into it now, like in bits and pieces. I was saying to you before, life gets in the way sometimes.
Yep.
But still keep coming back to it. And for me, I do like that early, like early 90s, well, basically 90s, late 80s. I really like that old, like, vintage stuff, or vintage for me anyway.
Well, the old superhero, good and evil
Yeah, I
guys.
like, because I was like, for me, that's like, that is my childhood.
Some campy characters. And
Oh, incredibly campy. And like, you look at it and you're like, you watch it in the crowd and it's like, how did adults like that? It's like,
you're like, man,
I was
you're
supposed to
back then
like
you're
it.
a
I
kid
was,
going, this Techno 2000, they're going to be the team
yeah,
of the future.
exactly. And I'm like, I should have liked it. I was 3. Like, you, like, it's incredibly campy, but it's for me, it's a massive part of my childhood. And you look through it, and you can look through all of, these days you can buy, well, a little bit more expensive now, but you could buy a box. And that was another thing about with Australia. Like, sometimes the shipping can be almost makes certain things just not worth buying,
Yep.
because a $1 card or a $2 card can be $20 to get shipped over here. And all of a sudden you're like, I don't really want it. I don't want it $25 worth. I wanted it for 3.
I had that same friend that I was telling you about from Sydney. So he had a friend that always he was a flight attendant for Qantas Airlines.
Yep.
So they would always, when they come to LAX, and I was living in California, I would go meet him at the hotel where the whole entire flight crew would go and stay until their outbound flight to go back or wherever their next destination was. So he would place an order with me to come and pick up things and deliver them to him. So he would just take them back in his suitcase to save him all that shipping cost
Oh,
of all
that's
these things.
awesome. Oh,
I'd bring
that's
him all these,
awesome.
these case, like, where am I going to put this case of Lord of the Rings at? I have no idea. It's like, not my problem. Ben told me, you're taking it. You're taking it.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I understand how the shipping is, it gets ridiculous. And as an international shipper myself, for things I've sold over the years, it's just, it's part of the game, man. It's just part of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Yeah, the good thing is you can buy a box. Even, I bought one of those old like 91, I think it was, WCW boxes, and it was like delivered here for like $20 or something. And I was like, oh yes,
nice.
this is living. And you can just looking through it and going through it, and you're like, oh, I forgot about him, and how cool. Like, it just transports you straight back into it.
So what are you collecting now then? Are you collecting modern stuff, or are you still dabbling in the vintage stuff? I mean,
definitely still dabbling in that older stuff. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, keeping up to date with the living set. When if there's something that takes my fancy, I'll keep following on with that. Otherwise, it's just going back into those guys that I grew up watching, and I think it'll probably, and I almost can see it going the same way that my fandom went. Like, soon it'll be, then it'll be like The Rock and Stone Cold and all those guys that when I was in my, I don't know, young, early teens ish, like that age, and like watching those, and like the collection I can see moving along with it. So yeah, it's interesting to see where it goes, because, and then you sort of see something else, it's a complete spanner in the works, and you're like, oh, well, I've got to have that now, don't I? Yeah.
So just like, because they always include legends and a lot of all the modern releases like that. Do you ever go after any of that stuff? Going, that's a cool picture?
Yes. Yeah, like I think we were talking before we started recording. Oh no, it was on. So one of the store that I went to actually in Melbourne, that they were packing everything up and going online, and that was one of the stores you were talking about that has like whatever, like name an obscure TV show from the 70s
Yeah.
and their trading card. I was like, man, it's like, dude, you got to sell a lot of X-Files cards to to break even on this place. Because they were like in the middle of Melbourne. I was like, man, it's a lot of wrestling. It's a lot of Power Rangers cards. And they had some of the older, like the Chrome stuff, like the Chrome Heritage, like the top stuff. So picking up that and looking through those, and that's like the bit of the best of both worlds, because it's got those older guys in it as well, and it's got the recent stuff too.
At that time, you're looking at 06, 07, 08,
Yeah,
that kind of
yeah,
thing.
exactly.
They just put the new Chrome one came out late last year for Topps, and
Yes,
beautiful card set.
Yeah.
Their last 3 releases. I mean, Undisputed was still undisputed. Chrome, Finest were both great sets, and then Fully Loaded. I didn't buy any of the Fully Loaded, which I kind of regret. Was just a home run. I mean, it was just beautiful card set.
Yeah, they are. Like the Tops do really good work. I think their stuff is like to look at. I find it really, really nice.
What would you say then? Do you just go after base sets? Do you go after any autographs, any swatch cards? And what I'm getting at then for that is like, what is your prize? Like, this is my favorite wrestling card that I own.
Oh man. I do like base stuff. I'm a base stuff guy because especially these days, there's so many different like parallels and all this sort of stuff.
God,
and
yeah.
for me, I actually just can't keep up with it. Like I look at it and I'm like, okay, this one's out of like 10, this one's out of 1, this one's out of 25, this one's out of like 1500. I'm like, oh, this is just.
Well, I mean, if you're a player collector,
yes, exactly,
and
exactly.
You don't care about the rest of the stuff in the set. You kind of just focus. You narrow your attention. Like for me, Kurt Angle, I just have to get the Kurt Angle ones. I know there's a 1 of 1. That's gonna be very hard to get. The 1 of 10, hard, but not as hard as 1 of 1. And then 1 of 25, 1 of 50. So it's a little fun to chase after those things and complete that wonderful little rainbow of different cards. So yeah, I get it. I mean, I get it. It's not for everybody. But
yeah, and it's just one of those things. I definitely do like if something nice comes across and it'll be like a nice auto or something like that. It's like, oh, that'd be a nice one to sort of add to it, but definitely more of a base card type of person.
Do you have a favorite at all? Like your favorite?
Yeah,
card?
I really like I've got the Savage Attack one, which I don't know. I think maybe it's because when I bought it, it was like one of the first wrestling sort of base cards that I bought. So the Randy Savage Attack.
It's so funny you say that because it seems to be a trend that I'm noticing with collectors. Just now that you're saying that, it's triggering something in my mind from having multiple conversations over the past year with collectors, where it's like, oh yeah, my favorite card probably the first one I ever got, which was this. Like,
yeah.
So something about getting that first card, it sticks with you.
Yes, I think so too. I definitely think so. It's just I guess that's the domino effect of everything coming. It's like, well, when we were talking off air and you mentioned like Kiss and Cheap Trick.
Yeah.
Like, well, Kiss might not be my favorite band, but they introduced me to Cheap Trick because I liked Kiss, and you know what I mean? So now I have a special spot for them too.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that. That's the one that my mind just keeps going back to is like, because just how excited I was when I got it and I found it and it came to me and I was like, oh, this is brilliant.
And you still have it, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And the guy chucked in a one from another set with like him and Miss Elizabeth in it too, and I was like, oh, this is even better. Like this is the best day. Yeah. So just do you have a favorite one?
Me, personally? Oh, yeah. We're turning the tables now here. I probably not. It's not my first. I do remember my first pack I ever bought, which was the 85 Topps. I think I bought it sometime in early 86 is when I first bought it. So, working at a liquor store, and we started carrying GPK and wrestling apparently. So, so I do remember that. But I think my favorite cards is a set. I really like the 98 WWF Superstars set from Comic Images. It just, that set got me really really involved in collecting cards again. I was already collecting, like Buffy and Playboy and Star Wars, things like that. But getting back into wrestling again, wrestling was hot. I mean, it was the hottest thing in the Attitude Era. And I was just very, very involved in that. And I love that card set. I love
Yep.
that it was a cool, thick card, 24 point, card stock,
Yeah,
real
yeah,
thick
yeah.
card. I love the autographs that were in it. I love the chase that was in it, the Omni. It's called like the Omni chase, the Stone Cold's greatest hits. And they
Yes.
had,
Yep.
something getting a hobby box, and they had like 2 exclusive retail versions. So it wasn't a hard card set to go chase after and complete, but it was just so fun and cool. And I was like, man, I can't wait for the next one. It got me really wanting to collect again. So it's a whole set.
Yes.
98,
Cool.
98 superstars for me.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So, I mean, now guys they're after that Rock autograph card. That's his first
Yeah,
official
yeah.
autograph card, but even like it was a cool redemption. You pulled it up and I got a redemption card. Like, I don't want to send this in. It's a cool looking redemption card, but
Yes.
I want to get my card.
Yep.
So, yeah, I really enjoyed that set. That's kind of probably my favorite set.
Yeah, excellent.
And I like a lot of the Fleer stuff too. Fleer did a lot of good stuff. When they got the license, I was bummed because I had developed such a good relationship with Comic Images that I thought that I have an in, I can get this, I can get the information because I was building the website and everything. And
Yeah.
but then Fleer got it, and I was like, oh man. And then they put out that first set, I was like, okay, these are kind of cool. The WrestleMania set was kind of cool. And then you had like, the Raw versus SmackDown set was okay. And like, the Raw's War set, like, okay, this is pretty cool. I like these ones. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Then a whole set about the chicks, Ultimate Diva collection. I'm okay. I'm sold.
yeah. I'm down. You got me.
You got me on that one. Yeah. And they had some cool, like, swatch from relic cards that, man. They had like, piece of the ring apron, piece,
Yeah.
that they had t-shirts, of course, and they had trash cans and steel chairs and
Yeah.
tables and milk cartons and
Yeah.
and as we were talking off the air too, so like, you had, a knee brace from Farouk, and you had like the
Yes.
mask, a piece of the mask from a Hurricane. I mean, that's some really good stuff. It was a fun time for me to collect, and it started with the 98 superstars for me.
Yeah, cool. I love that.
I mean, I picked up things over the years prior to that, still like that. I got it, of course, the 91 classics, the 90 classics, 91 championship marketing and impels, and whatever came out sporadically through here and there. It's like that. And then the magazine cards from WWF magazine, and those were all, yeah, it was kind of cool. It was like, cool wrestling cards. All right, cool. Keep that going, I guess. But then when, it was so hot in the late 90s in that superstar set.
Mhm.
But is there anything that you don't have in your collection that you wish you had in your collection, wrestling card wise?
Oh man.
I mean, let's just assume that, price is there's no, it's whatever you want, I will grant you one.
Oh man. Yeah, it's out of my price bracket at the moment, but that old wrestling All Stars is just one of my, like, they just look so cool. I knew it couldn't have happened, but I was hoping the tops went for that design for the living set. That was like, I was like, I know they won't do it because it's not their design, but
well, you can get a facsimile of those by, I don't know if you follow him on Twitter,
I've
75
seen that.
Kings.
Yeah.
He does amazing stuff, and I love his card sets. And his card set was the first cards I bought of modern stuff since maybe 07.
Yep.
And it just kind of like, oh, these are so cool. And like, oh, he's in Arizona like me. That's awesome. That's kind of cool little connection. Uncut sheet, and the minis, like, it's just so cool. So, I mean, it's a great way to get some of those kind of cards, maybe.
Yeah, I might have to. I've definitely seen the photos and been like, oh, they look nice, but I might have to go into it. And
Yeah, I mean, and they're not that expensive at all. He's very reasonably priced on that stuff. And
yeah,
he's got uncut sheets still, and I don't know what he has left from the Series 1 or Series 2, but I think he's doing a Series 3 coming out here pretty soon.
Yeah, nice. I love that.
I suggested he do one of like all the women, but that's just me. So, well, I thought it'd be a good idea for him to do, like, you can do a 8 card or 9 card set. You do a 9 card set, pluck 3 from classics like a Mae Young or Moolah, take 3 from like like Wendy Richter or something like that, or whatever, and then take Sable or Trish, and then a couple modern ones and make a whole set out of it.
Yeah, nice. That would go down really well, I think.
I think people would love it, but
Yeah.
he's right now. I just saw on Twitter, he's like doing a skateboard of Macho Man Randy Savage. Looks
Oh,
so
sick.
badass. Looks so
Sick.
badass. But check him out. If you don't follow him already, you
Yeah.
should follow him. But he's got some good stuff. So yeah, wrestling all stars. Yeah, it seems to be a pretty go-to answer for some people, I would guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's that was just the first one that jumped out. I just think the design of them is like, for me, just classic. It's just classic. Do you have, oh, again, I'll put it back on you. Do you have anything that's you don't have that you're like, man, that's the one I want?
I can tell you, well, for me, monetarily wise, just from an investment standpoint, I'd love to have that Hogan Poppy cards like that from Japan.
Yep.
One, I probably, I guess I would go the same with you. I mean, I own those sets minus the three main cards. I sold those cards about 5, 6 years ago individually. I thought I was getting good money for them back then. Little did I know. I mean, when I only paid $25 for a set and I ended up selling, something for $500,
Hey,
it's a good return on my investment basically. But
take that every day.
but now I have, these partial sets, that missing, the three cards, and I'd like to get those back. That'd be kind of cool. Like I'd take them back even graded, like any grade, like a 1. I'd take them
Yeah.
back.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Just to have. I guess
And
that's probably all.
and also because I do have a bit of a ticket collection as well. I really like collecting old tickets. It started with soccer as well. Just collecting tickets of old soccer games, and I've got one from WrestleMania 3, but it's not the actual event. It's like one of the CCTV
Oh, gotcha.
like satellite events that I want.
That's got to be probably even rarer.
Well, yeah, I'd hope so. It's in a box about to go to PSA, so I hope so.
Well, speaking of PSA, so you do grading then?
Yeah, I do. For the tickets, I do.
Just tickets.
For some cards, I do. Depends on them. For it, it depends on the card, I guess. It depends on the card. I'm definitely not anti-grading by any stretch. But sometimes there's just more hassle than it's worth.
So what's your purpose of grading then? Are you doing it because it's part of your PC, or do you do it because it's for a resale standpoint?
Again, depends on the card. A little bit of both. There's some stuff that so I've got some signed tickets and stuff that I'm going to get sent off and authenticated properly. And so it's nice to know that, it has a nice little bit of resale value. Also, if I don't know, worst comes to worst down the line, someone can sell it off for them because they don't, if I don't want to sell them, eventually someone probably might. So
I remember back when I used to get autographs on 8x10s from wrestlers when I was hanging out with David Porto, my partner for WTC. And we would go out and get autographs together. Here it is, years later, I ended up working with most of these people, which was fun. But we'd get them signed, and my daughter would always tell me would you stop getting them personalized? And I'm like, why? He said, because then after you go, I can't sell them to somebody else named Tony.
Yeah, you're really limiting the resale market.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you. I didn't mean to infringe upon your future, revenue stream off of my collection. So I talked to Honky Tonk Man once about that when he got his classic superstar figure, and his kids made him sign the whole case. So just in case something happened to Dad, they had a whole case of signed stuff. I thought, wow, it doesn't like your kids looking out for you, huh?
Yeah.
And speaking of WTC, then I'm assuming you do know the site.
Yeah, I know the site. Yeah.
When did you first discover it? How have you used it a lot? Or
yeah, it's a constant. I couldn't tell you the first time I looked at it. It was a long time ago now. But it's just something I keep coming back to as a reference point. It's such a good resource. It's funny, we're talking about just site structure and stuff like that before, but there's a site that reminds me of yours a little bit, but for soccer, and it is just an absolute brilliant resource, but it's an absolute mess to navigate.
How so? What's wrong with it that makes it so hard?
The site layout is really hard to navigate. It's all, a lot of it's user generated content as well. Some from particular users. So, things will be mislabeled, things will be this, things will be that. It doesn't have photos of any of the cards as well. But as far as resources go, like, you can find some random set from like 1935 in like Uruguay or something like that.
Wow.
So, beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'll take it. But like the way that yours is all set out, the way that it's quite easy to, it's such a valuable resource. I think it's something I keep coming back to, especially because I am looking at that older stuff as well, trying to find what else is there. And you'll buy a box and you'll look through everything and you're like, man, I reckon I've got most of this. Let's see what else I need. And it's like, especially when you buy like those old boxes and there's pretty much almost one of everything in a box.
Yeah. I mean, either you had a box that had like, you had a whole set,
Yeah,
basically,
yeah,
or you had something that was so poorly correlated that is like, I've got the same 50 first 10 cards. That's it.
yeah. I don't have the whole set, but I got 45 of these.
Yeah, I got 45 of these. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of that stuff, especially the stuff over in Europe. Like there was a card set from I think '05 called Animotion out of Italy. It was a wrestling card set, and there was a story behind it. And I got to talk to the person about it again. I can't remember what the story was, but it was 100 and something odd card set. I think it was 190 cards, something like that. They're little cards, little motion lenticular cards. The cards 1 through 99 were all short printed, and those are so hard to come by. So you buy a box and you got so many quadruples, and it's like it was brutal.
Yeah.
Like all the years, here I am all these years later, and I'm still missing one card. I'm missing card number 18, and that's it.
Oh wow.
And I just haven't got. I think Husker he might have it, and I just can't bring myself to be paying $10 for that card. But maybe I should. I don't know. Just so I could say I can complete it and then maybe one day sell it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But well, it's interesting. I enjoy these conversations with people from all over the world, because it's just the one thing I get out of it is that most of the major card sets seem to come out of the States.
Yeah.
And that's where, but so you don't collect anything from Japan? Like you're not into Japanese cards at all from the Japanese wrestling, or?
It's just not something I've gone down. It's definitely not something I am not going to collect. It's just haven't really. It's more about haven't got around to it.
There's a lot of cards that feature talent.
Yes.
From the era that you like.
Yeah. It's I was bidding on eBay actually. It was a Hulk Hogan one from that era, a Japanese card, and I was like, oh no, it got out of my price range a little bit too quickly. I was like,
I'm waiting for I submitted. I found in my storage unit. I found a set of that '82 Cosmos card set.
Yes.
And so I broke the set up and sent in my Flair and Hogan back in November. So and I just saw one on eBay like last week or week and a half ago, sold for $8,000, graded 6. And I go, mine's got to be at least a 7 or 8. I mean, come on.
Yes.
And then I sent the Flair, and then I sent the rest in. I think in January I sent the rest of the set. The Inoki, the 2 black tiger mask, tiger mask, and then something else. I can't remember what it was, but I sent them all in. So yeah, I just happened to come across it in storage. So
yes, perfect.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff on that time frame, so I'm surprised. I mean, it seems like the guys, when I talk to people from other countries, they seem to focus on just the stuff that came out of the States.
Yep.
And not so much Japan, which is rich with a lot of amazing, cool wrestling card sets. And then we're finding, you have a Husker Have out there who's got these singles from all over the world. Like I showed you that one earlier, that Kurt Angle one from Russia.
Yes.
It's just, there's a lot of cool stuff out there. I remember when I started WTC, I thought, I'm done. I got every card set there is out there listed on here. I mean, I don't know of any more. I go on eBay and find this one and find that one. I find this one. I find that. Like, oh my God, this is going to be never ending. And
it feels like it's never ending.
It never will. It always will.
Yeah. I mean, even
this evening, I did a sit down with a guy named Wes, who's collecting all those WCW autograph cards from 98, 99. And this evening, someone was nice enough to comment on that video, saying, well, there's actually 2 versions of the Horace Hogan card that's making it 102 cards, 102 cards in the set. I'm like, well, technically it's the same guy, so it's really only 101. It's just a variant. And so, but he brought that. I never knew that. So now it's information that needs to be we have to confirm it. I need to see the image, and then
Yep.
hopefully confirm it, and then I got to add the information to the checklist, and
Yeah.
it's just never ending. It just never stops.
Yeah. It's the wealth of information out there is just like you said, you think even like one set, you think this set,
Yeah,
and then it'll be like, oh, actually, it's
actually,
like,
there's this,
oh,
which is great
which is
because
awesome. Yeah.
which is great because we live in a time now where we live in these different countries, we collect our things, but 15, 20 years ago, even though we still had internet, was still kind of in its infancy, really. There wasn't a whole lot being put up there for information.
Yes.
Wasn't a whole lot unless you went to eBay and like, what the hell is this? Well, I gotta buy that. That's how I bought those Cosmos cards,
Yeah.
by the way. I
Yep.
just bought them because I had no. Oh, okay, I'll take that for $10. Yeah, no problem. And
Yeah.
then it sits in a box somewhere for all these years. But the world is much smaller now,
Yes.
and we have the ability to communicate with each other so much easier, and information can be shared so quickly.
Yeah.
And even when you think that you know everything about something, you may know a lot about it, but oftentimes you end up finding out that I only know 99%. There's still another percent
Yeah.
out there. Right?
Yeah. Well, we've gone from like working in almost these little silos, like individually or in our small little groups,
Yep.
to opening up and learning from each other. And like, what do they say? Like, once you think you know everything, you actually start to know nothing. Like,
That's right.
yeah. So it's and that's the thing. I'm learning new stuff every single day,
Yep.
through the hobby and through people in it. So,
And it's through the
and
hobby. It's again through the hobby is where we meet other people.
yeah,
And
yes,
I find it. Do you find this in other sports that you're dalliance like that? I've seen it seems to be a kind of a universal understanding that there really isn't quite the collector base out there like there is for wrestling collector base.
yes,
Seems to be a
yep,
little bit more of a close knit family. People take care of each other. There's not a lot of competition per se. There's friendly jabs, obviously, like that, but it just seems like there's some more how you say it people in other collecting other sports, from what I understand, because I don't collect in other sports, are just can be a little ruder sometimes, can be a little bit
mm,
more harsh. But wrestling seems to be a little more family connected. Do you find that to be
yeah,
the case?
definitely. And I think soccer is like that too. Probably not to the degree of wrestling. I think soccer is kind of like that in between. But yeah, I think some of the other sports that I've looked into a little bit, it is. But I guess it's just
I would
so
never
many.
think that of soccer, because soccer, you hear about these countries going at each other. It's like that, having these big old
Yeah,
brawls, man. It's like that. I hate you, and people
yeah,
die. People get
yeah, oh, yeah,
trampled on.
yeah. People legit, and then like you'll hear it be like, oh, some Brazilian, like you'll be like, oh, a Brazilian referee in like the third division has been
Beheaded.
murdered, but beheaded on the field, and like
Yeah.
the article will be written in like the tone of like, well, if they made the right call at halftime.
Can you imagine that happening in wrestling?
Oh, yeah.
I did not like that Brock Lesnar ended that streak. I did not like that. I'm going to have to take him out.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. If he'd have just like,
good luck with that. Yeah. So it's interesting that, again, technology, internet, small world, wrestling collectors seem to get together. It's a good group of people, and it brings people together. And I kind of like doing this segment where we talk from collectors from around the world, because I would have never met you otherwise, probably.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. You're probably right.
Now I consider you a collector friend, and
Yeah.
maybe, and probably reach out to you again, and who knows, we might cross paths one day, because I might be getting my way out there sooner or later.
Oh man, I hope so.
For some convention, I'm sure. But yeah, well, do you have any other things that you want to promote? Because I know you have the website. I believe you have a podcast you're going to be doing too, don't you?
Yeah, so I've got a podcast more. It's about soccer cards. Soccer is definitely my main thing. It's always been as soon as Mum realized I could really hurt myself pretending to suplex, she got me to soccer pretty quickly.
But had she known you could possibly be headed on the field.
Exactly. If she'd have kept up with her Brazilian third division news, who knows? I might have been a mania on the weekend. Yeah, no, nothing really. Just Sports Cards Rock. There's some stuff up there. I'll usually be writing. You can find me through there. But yeah, if you want to pop in there, you can find me and say hi. But
obviously our specialty is wrestling cards, but there's a lot of wrestling card collectors that collect other things too, like yourself.
Yeah,
they collect other
definitely.
sports. They collect UFC. They collect They might be collecting Pokemon for crying out loud.
Yeah,
Everything.
yeah.
So, if somebody out there wants to, know about more about soccer cards,
Other stuff. Yeah, come
you're
see
the guy.
me.
Come check you out. And
Yeah.
your website name is again.
Sportscardsrock.com.
And they can find all your social media there too.
Yeah, everything's through there, and that's the best probably main hub for that.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate. I know we have a huge time difference. It's 9:25 p.m. my time on a Tuesday.
Yep.
You're already on Wednesday. What you?
I'm already on a Wednesday. Yeah, it's
Your day's half over.
Yeah, 2:25 in the afternoon.
Yeah. So I appreciate you making some time. I'm glad that we have this time, to make.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate it, man. Thanks for being on.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me. Absolutely my pleasure.
We'll hopefully talk again soon, man.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, guys. We are out.